Hello again and welcome back to EH Gaming. Today I'm going to be looking at hopefully a new way of stripping miniatures, which is this wonderful luminous elbow grease solution. You might have seen a previous video I did where I was comparing the old faithful Dettol with Clean Spirit by Bartolene, which is, I think I touted it as the new kid on the block. At the time of filming I was hoping to test elbow grease, but unfortunately it seemed to be on some kind of weird product recall. But I'm pleased to say this is back in stock in the UK at the DIY store The Range, and it cost £1 for this rather large bottle. So what I'm doing is I've put some of it in there. It's a very weird colour, it's like something off The Simpsons. I'm hoping that this is going to work as well as I've heard it is from a few other people. I've got some very badly painted old miniatures. There's a dodgy old ring wraith, the infamous Blood Bowl 2nd edition ogre, who I'm looking forward to stripping and painting again, a hobbit, and for a similar test to the last video, a couple of those badly painted goblins are going to go in as well. So let's see how they perform. I'm going to basically drop these in to the solution. It's about 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, and I'm going to come back to these tomorrow. I'm going to let them soak for around about 15-16 hours, which was similar to the last video. I'll seal that up and we'll see how well elbow grease does. Fingers crossed. See you tomorrow morning, tomorrow lunchtime. Sleep well. Okay, so we're back. It's been about 15-16 hours since we put these in to soak last night. So we're going to see how elbow grease performs. Same stuff as I used in the last video, just a normal kid's toothbrush. Make sure you wear a glove. I don't know what this stuff is like if it comes into contact with the skin. But I'm just going to pour these out into the tub and we'll see if this stuff works. So, toothbrush. I'm just going to start scrubbing. So far, it's slow. I've just realised I'm dipping my fingers in it, so if I do the rest of my videos with just one hand, then you know elbow grease is a little bit troublesome. It is actually starting to come off. So, yeah, so far not too bad. Where's that ogre? He's in here somewhere. Oh, here's one of the ring wraiths that was covered, absolutely covered in black. Now this was a metal miniature, so we'll see if this comes off okay. And I must say, it's doing a pretty good job. That's not bad actually. Here's one of the goblins, which I did quite a few of these in the last video when I was using Dettol, and yeah, this seems to work as well. I think one of the best things to do would be to actually use something a bit stronger than a child's toothbrush, because I'm not convinced that these are actually strong enough to do it. Here's the ogre. I really want to get him back to absolute base metal because I want to get him painted up again soon. Yeah, it's working. You do have to scrub a little bit harder than you would with Dettol, but the benefit is £1 for a large bottle. That is attractive, especially if you're going to have quite a lot of models to do this to. Like I said, it is a little bit harder to scrub off than if I was using Dettol. But I'm going to carry on doing these and I'll show you the results in a moment. So here we are with the results of how elbow grease has performed when it comes to stripping miniatures. Now I will say that when I was giving them a scrub after I turned the camera off yesterday, I had to scrub really hard, a lot harder than I did with the other two products that I was using. especially with a lot harder than Dettol. It's kind of a strange way that elbow grease works. It doesn't necessarily break down the paint in the way that Dettol does. It kind of you have to sort of scrape it off. So I think, again, like last time, a stronger toothbrush is definitely needed. But you had to really, really scrub, and the paint kind of started to come off in sort of chunks in a way. Now, if you compare the results, I mean, if you have seen the previous video I did, these goblins, it just became pointless trying to carry on actually getting them clean with the elbow grease. So this probably is as good as a plastic model came out, this Terminator. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'll take some photos and stick those up. We've still got quite a lot of residual paint in a few areas, and I just couldn't get it to come off. So I've not been blown away with how it's worked on plastic. That said, I think these were really thickly coated with paint, probably had a few coats on, probably by somebody who didn't actually water the paint down either. So maybe if you've got, less paint on the model, or if the paint's a bit fresher, because I think these were done quite a while ago. I think these goblins have sat in layer and layer of paint for probably about 10 years now, because I think they're from the original Fellowship of the Ring box, but I'm not sure. Not blown away by how it's performed on plastic, if I'm honest. That said, the metal miniatures actually came out really well. They had to be scrubbed harder than I did with the other two products, but they did come back really well. This ring wraith was covered in quite, really thick black paint. Again, it had probably been on there for a few years, and actually it wasn't too bad. What I realised after about 10 minutes of trying to get them clean with the toothbrush was a stronger brush, again, probably would help, but actually once you've got some of the initial layers off, getting into it with a cocktail stick and really starting to get underneath a bit and pushing, the paint really started to strip off, and it came off relatively easily. So I would recommend something a bit sharper. Get a strong brush, not a wire brush obviously, but get a really strong brush and get some toothpicks or something like that, and start to get in. When you realise the brush isn't taking any more off, starts jabbing the toothpick in, and bits start to come off. But that to me is absolutely spot on, perfectly ready to be painted again. The Blood Bowl Ogre, which was, I say, coated in horrible thick yellow paint and tricolour hair, I'm really happy with that, because that is probably a similar effect to what I would have got if I'd used Dettol. So metal miniatures appear to come out really well with elbow grease. This halfling, I think it's Frodo, again, came off really well. Interestingly though, notice the base, which is plastic, hardly been touched. That white sort of primer, which was a problem when I used the other two products, is still remaining on there. I did realise if you scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed, you could get a base back to pretty much almost black. This was covered in really thick brown paint, but it just doesn't feel like it's worth the effort. One thing I need to point out, water. I did the water test. If you introduce water to elbow grease whilst you're trying to sort of clean the miniatures off, you do get the same problems you get with Dettol. It starts to really mat down and nothing will shift that. So avoid using water with elbow grease at all times. But yeah, not blown away for plastic. I would still recommend Dettol for that, or the Bartolene product. If you've just got loads and loads and loads of old plastic models, I don't think this is the one for you. If you've got metal models, it seems to work really well. Like, really well. You'll scrub harder than with Dettol, but it's a lot cheaper than buying Dettol, and it doesn't smell, and that, I'd be really happy with that. And I'm absolutely delighted with how the ogres come out. No problems, no issues at all with the actual metal itself. It's not done any damage. To be fair, it hasn't done any damage to the plastic models. It just becomes just too much effort to actually strip them down. So on the whole, not too bad. For £1 a bottle, that to me is probably going to be my go-to product for any metal miniatures that aren't covered too heavily in paint, or if I've got lots of them, empty the whole bottle into a big tub and let them soak in there, maybe for a couple of days, to see if that improves it, and a stronger brush. So elbow grease, good for metal, not brilliant for plastic. probably actually would work quite well with resin. And I will test that at some point further down the line whenever I've got a resin model that needs stripping. But for £1 a bottle, if you can be bothered scrubbing really hard, if you're on a budget, it'll do. If you've got metal miniatures, like I say, it's fine. It's a really, really good solution. If I had 20, 30, 40 models of different types of coats of paint and different ages, and I wasn't sure, I'd probably play safe and still use Dettol, because to me that is, I don't know, it's outperformed everything else so far. But yeah, believe what you've heard. If people have mentioned elbow grease, it does work. You just have to work damn hard with it. Okay, thanks for watching. And the next product I'm probably going to test will be methylated spirits, because I've seen a little bit of evidence that that seems to work. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.